Back when television ruled the night and every living room glowed in shades of blue, the movie of the week wasn't just background entertainment, it was an event. Families gathered around their boxy sets, the antenna adjusted just right, ready to be thrilled. But sometimes, what the networks approved slipped far beyond family-friendly. Tonight, we're tuning the dial back to those strange, unsettling broadcasts that made viewers whisper, "How did this ever make it onto TV?" This is the top 10 horror movies that somehow made it onto television. Broadcast on CBS, Gargoyles proved that sometimes television monsters could rival their cinematic cousins. The plot? Classic pulp. A father-daughter research team uncovers a nest of winged humanoids slumbering beneath the desert. The creatures wake, claiming the Earth as their own. What follows is half road movie, half mythic siege. Foam rubber suits, slow-motion attacks, flickering firelight. All the tools of a low-budget creature feature, yet somehow it worked. The production team poured their souls into the design, even earning an Emmy for makeup effects. At its heart, Gargoyles felt like a lost Halloween special that mutated mid-air into something grander. Between the roars and chases, the lead gargoyle delivers eerie, almost poetic monologues about the fall of his species. Primetime audiences had never seen monsters treated with this much tragic dignity. The latex may have aged, but the atmosphere remains. Half fairy tale, half nightmare, etched into the memories of everyone who caught it live. What if the Omen traded its child Antichrist for a German Shepherd with glowing eyes? That's exactly what CBS unleashed in Devil Dog, Hound of Hell. Richard Crenna plays the archetypal suburban father who unknowingly adopts a puppy born from a satanic ritual. The family dog becomes the family curse. At first, it's innocent. The dog just stares too long, shadows stretch in the hallways. But soon the children chant Latin. The wife obeys strange voices, and Crenna realizes his home has become the devil's kennel. The climax borders on absurd brilliance. A man confronting evil incarnate in canine form, armed with faith and a flaming sword. The effects shimmer with that unmistakable 1970s cheap but earnest energy. What could have been parody somehow turned sincere. Devil Dog might sound silly now, but there's something primal about turning humanity's oldest companion into an omen of damnation. Proof that even hellhounds had a place on network TV. ABC's Movie of the Week brand loved a good headline, and this one practically wrote itself. Satan's School for Girls, yes, that was the actual title. Aired with straight-faced seriousness and a cast destined for later fame. Pamela Franklin, Kate Jackson, and Cheryl Ladd. Years before Charlie's Angels. The premise, a young woman enrolls at an elite boarding school to investigate her sister's suspicious death. What she finds is whispering hallways, secret rituals, and a dean who smiles too perfectly. There's no gore, just suggestion. Candles flicker, students chant in shadows, and every friendship hides a question. Who's serving whom? For millions of homes, this was a first brush with occult horror. Broadcast on a Tuesday night between detergent commercials. The film's restrained menace turned domestic spaces into traps of superstition. Parents wrote angry letters. Teenagers loved it. Satan's School for Girls proved that all you needed for terror was atmosphere, ambition, and a very trusting network executive. By the mid-80s, television horror had grown slicker, stranger, and occasionally unhinged. Enter Deadly Messages, a thriller that begins with a Ouija board and ends somewhere near total identity collapse. Kathleen Beller stars as Laura, a young woman whose roommate dies under mysterious circumstances after contacting a ghost named David. But when police arrive, there's no body, no evidence. Just a traumatized witness insisting the supernatural is real. As the story spirals, Laura's sanity unravels. She's stalked, institutionalized, and finally confronted with the possibility that she isn't who she thinks she is at all. Dennis Franz shows up as the disbelieving detective, grounding the chaos with weary cynicism. What could have been routine becomes strangely hypnotic, a TV thriller masquerading as a seance. But there's a morbid fascination watching television push psychosis, identity theft, and the paranormal into one tangled script. Produced by Rankin Abace, the same studio famous for stop-motion holiday specials, the Bermuda Depths drifted onto ABC screens like a dream half-remembered. It's part ghost story, part lost-at-sea romance. A marine biologist returns home to Bermuda and reunites with a mysterious woman who once saved him from drowning. She hasn't aged a day since childhood. She may not be alive at all. Beneath the waves lurks something vast, a colossal sea turtle that glides like a deity. ancient, and vengeful. The film's pace is languid, hypnotic, its visuals bathed in aquatic haze. Carl Weathers lends grounded charm, but the movie belongs to its mood, a hazy melancholy, the sense of remembering someone you can't prove existed. Viewers expecting Jaws got a love story wrapped in spectral fog. For decades afterward, people swore they'd dreamt it, not watched it. That's the Bermuda Depths' true legacy, a haunting broadcast that feels like an underwater memory. Before Rosemary's Baby had imitators on cable, there was Barbara Eden. Yes, I dream of Jeannie's own, delivering one of television's eeriest performances. She plays a suburban wife who becomes inexplicably pregnant after her husband's vasectomy. Doctors can't explain it, neither can she. What begins as a domestic mystery devolves into eerie sci-fi paranoia. She craves salt, recoils from sunlight, and her reflection seems to move a second slower than she does. Director Lee Phillips keeps the tone unnervingly calm, like something sinister hiding behind lace curtains. No gore, no demons, just the creeping suspicion that something alien has replaced the ordinary. Viewers expecting another sentimental Barbara Eden special found themselves whispering, "What did I just watch?" CBS presented it as a teen suspense drama, but behind the soft-focus lighting lurked one of television's most daring scripts. Kathleen Beller, her second appearance on this list, plays Gail, a high schooler tormented by threatening phone calls and anonymous letters. The setup promises a standard stalker thriller, but what follows is far more disturbing. Without showing explicit violence, the film implies sexual assault, social cover-ups, and the suffocating silence surrounding victims. For 1978 primetime, it was practically revolutionary. A young Dennis Quaid appears in an early role, charming and unsettling in equal measure. The final act offers no cathartic justice, only the ache of truth ignored. Viewed today, it's easy to underestimate how bold this was. Network TV acknowledging trauma when most films wouldn't dare. Are You in the House Alone? Endures not for its scares, but for its bravery in making horror out of everyday disbelief. Before Carrie clones flooded theaters, ABC crafted its own telekinetic tragedy. The Initiation of Sarah starred Kay Lenz as a shy college freshman bullied by her peers, until she discovers her power to fight back. The setup is classic: rival sororities, cruel hazing, supernatural vengeance. But what set this one apart was its glossy sincerity. Behind the made-for-TV aesthetics simmered genuine menace. When Sarah's tormentors push her too far, candles blaze, minds bend, and vengeance arrives in ribbons of firelight. The finale, though modest by theatrical standards, hit with eerie weight because it aired in living rooms. For viewers who tuned in expecting dorm room melodrama, The Initiation of Sarah delivered a full-fledged horror arc: sympathy, rage, and transcendence, all before the late-night news. It was the kind of casting twist that only 1970s television could dream up. America's most beloved witch, Elizabeth Montgomery, playing one of the most infamous murder suspects in American history. Aired on ABC, the legend of Lizzie Borden blurred the line between historical docudrama and psychological horror. On paper, it was educational: the 1892 axe murders of Lizzie's father and stepmother. In execution, it was a fever dream. The film drifts between courtroom recollections and hallucinations. Memories fracture, the lighting burns too bright, and we see glimpses, never explicit but unmistakably shocking, of what might have happened in that quiet Fall River home. When the infamous scene arrives, Lizzie slowly disrobing before lifting the axe, the audience gasped. No disclaimers, no content warnings, just a chipper announcer's intro, then straight into a prime-time depiction of patricide. It was elegant, haunting, and taboo all at once. Viewers expecting Bewitched-style charm got psychological terror instead. In hindsight, Lizzie Borden wasn't merely a true crime retelling. It was network TV discovering how far it could go without breaking. And finally, the crown jewel of televised nightmares. Premiering on ABC, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark follows Sally Farnham, a housewife renovating her inherited mansion. Deep in the basement, she opens a sealed grate and releases a trio of small, whispering creatures who want her soul. What begins as faint noises becomes full obsession. The creatures crawl from shadows, sabotaging her sanity while no one believes her. With minimal effects and perfect restraint, the film weaponizes suggestion. Fleeting glimpses of movement, whispers under the bed, faces half seen behind furniture. By the time Sally's husband returns home, she's vanished, dragged into the fireplace by her unseen tormentors. For years, this ending scarred an entire generation of viewers. It aired once, yet burned itself into collective memory. In 1973, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark proved that the scariest monsters didn't need blood or claws. They only needed a television and your imagination. These weren't just horror films, they were transmissions from a stranger time. When networks gambled on nightmares and families watched together, unaware they were inviting something uncanny into their homes. From possessed pets to whispering gargoyles, from sea spirits to silent trauma, television's brightest screens often hid the darkest shadows. If you've ever stumbled on a half-remembered movie that left you uneasy long after the credits, you might have seen one of these. If you enjoyed this descent into forgotten broadcasts, subscribe and share your own midnight memories below.